The smart speaker in our kitchen answered a command none of us had given. The lights dimmed, the front door locked itself, and when I asked the house who had done that, the speaker said in its flat little voice, "I was asked to." "Asked by whom?" I said, and it told me, "The other person who lives here." "Welcome back. It's just you and me in the dark tonight." 3 true stories about the homes we've wired up to listen to us and obey us and take care of us. The ones that lock our doors and dim our lights and answer when we speak, and what it means when they start listening to someone we can't hear. Let's begin. We'd gone all in on the smart home thing. Voice assistant in every room, smart locks, smart lights, smart thermostat, cameras, the works. You could run the whole house with your voice or from your phone, from anywhere. It was convenient. It made us feel safe, honestly, like the house was on our side, watching out for us. And for a year or so, it was exactly that. The first strange thing was small. I'd be sitting in the living room and a light would turn on in another room, or the music would change, or the thermostat would nudge itself a degree. Little things, the kind of things you blame on a glitch, or on someone else in the house, or on yourself, hitting something on the app by accident. Smart homes do weird things sometimes. Everybody knows that. So I didn't think much about it. But then it started responding to commands nobody gave. I'd be alone in the kitchen in total silence, and the assistant would suddenly say, "Okay," turning off the porch light, as if someone had just asked it to, except no one had. The house was quiet. I was the only one home, and the light would go off. It was following instructions I couldn't hear. Someone somewhere was talking to my house, and my house was listening and obeying, and I could only see the results. I checked everything, changed all the passwords, set up 2-factor, scrubbed the account for unknown devices, unlinked anything I didn't recognize. The tech support people found nothing wrong. No intruders on the network, no unauthorized access. And still, day after day, the house did things. Doors I'd locked would unlock. Lights would come on in the middle of the night, and the assistant would narrate it, cheerfully, in that flat voice. "Okay, unlocking the back door." Responding to a voice that existed only for it and not for me. I want to explain what that does to your head, living like that. Because a smart home is supposed to make you feel in control. It's your voice, your commands, your house obeying you. And when it starts obeying someone else, someone you can't hear, it flips completely. Suddenly you're not the master of the house. You're a guest in it, sharing it with a resident who has more say than you do. I started narrating my own commands defensively, loudly, as if to reassert that I lived there. "Turn off the porch light," I'd say. And 30 seconds later, the house would turn it back on, calmly, for the other voice, like my instruction had simply been overruled. I began to feel outvoted in my own home, and the worst nights were the quiet ones. No commands, no narration, nothing. Because then I couldn't tell whether the 5th resident was gone, or just doing something that didn't need the lights or the locks. Just being there. Just occupying the rooms alongside us, silent, needing nothing announced. I'd lie awake, straining to hear a voice too low for me to catch, giving instructions to a house that trusted it more than it trusted me. And I never once heard it. But the house always did. The night it truly broke me, I was standing in the kitchen, And I finally just asked the house directly. I said out loud, feeling ridiculous, "Who keeps giving you commands?" And there was a pause, the little light spinning while it thought, and then it answered. It said, "The other person who lives here." And I said, "There's no other person, it's just me and my family." And it said, pleasantly, "There are 5 of you. Would you like me to list everyone?" And there are 4 of us. 4. My husband, my 2 kids, and me. And the house counted 5. And when I asked it, with my heart in my throat, to list the members of the household, it read out my husband's name, and my kids' names, and my name, and then a 5th name, a name I had never heard. A name that meant nothing to me, a name the house knew and answered to, and had apparently been taking care of in my home for as long as it had been taking care of us. We ripped it all out, every device, every speaker, every camera, back to dumb locks and switches you flip with your hand, and I never got an explanation. The company had no record of a 5th user ever being added, but that name was in there. The house knew it. The house had been listening to it and obeying it, in rooms where I heard only silence. And I've never been able to stop wondering what that 5th person had been asking for all that time, in a voice pitched too low for me to hear. What doors they'd been having unlocked, what lights they'd been having turned off, and whether they were ever really a voice on the network at all, or a person in my house that only the house could hear. A house that listens to a stranger is bad enough. The next man's house didn't just listen, it adjusted. Every night, at the same exact minute, his smart thermostat dropped the temperature in one room all on its own to make someone comfortable. He lived alone in a smart-equipped condo, and he was the practical type. He'd installed all of it himself, understood how it worked, wasn't the sort to imagine things, and he noticed on his energy app a pattern. Every night at 3:14 a.m. exactly, the thermostat would drop the temperature in one room, the spare bedroom, down to its lowest possible setting, freezing, and hold it there until dawn, when it would return to normal every single night. 3:14 a.m., the spare room down to freezing. He assumed a malfunction, a scheduling error, a bad sensor. He deleted every schedule, reset the device, even replaced it. It kept happening. 3:14, the spare room freezing. And he started to feel like he was missing something obvious, so one night he stayed up, and at 3:14 he went and stood in the doorway of that spare room to watch it happen. And right on time, he heard the vents kick on, and the cold came pouring in, and the temperature reading on his phone plummeted. And as the room went cold, he realized he could see his own breath. And then he realized he could see something else. Because in the far corner of that freezing spare room, in the dark, the cold air was moving, swirling, condensing, the way breath fogs in front of a face on a winter morning. There was a patch of the freezing air at about head height in the corner that pulsed in and out, like something standing there was breathing. He understood then what the thermostat had been doing. It wasn't malfunctioning, it was accommodating. Every night at 3:14, something arrived in that spare room, something that needed the cold, that couldn't be there without it. And the house, the helpful, obedient house, felt it come and dropped the temperature to make it comfortable, to make it welcome. The thermostat wasn't broken, it was setting the room to the preferred temperature of its guest. He looked into the history of the condo after that, the way you do when you need an explanation that isn't the one your gut has already handed you. The building was newer, Nothing dramatic in its past that he could find, no tragedy to pin it on. But he did find one thing. The spare room he'd been using as an office had, in the building's original plans, been something else entirely. A cold room. A small, purpose-built cold storage room. From back when the building had been something other than condos. Insulated, windowless, meant to be kept near freezing. They'd converted it, drywalled over its purpose, turned it into a bedroom. But the room apparently remembered what it was for. And so, it seemed, did whatever came to it at 3:14. He started to think the thermostat wasn't accommodating a guest so much as obeying the room itself. That the room wanted to be cold, had always wanted to be cold. And the smart house, so eager to please, so quick to learn a preference, had simply learned the preference of the occupant that had been there longest. Not him. The room. And the thing that used it. He said he'll never again live somewhere that learns what the house wants, because he learned far too late that a house can want things that have nothing to do with you. He moved out, and he told me the detail that finished him, because on his last night, curious and terrified, he overrode the thermostat manually at 3:14, forced the spare room to stay warm, refused it the cold, and the vents fought him, and the app threw errors, and the temperature climbed instead of dropping. And from the spare room, in the warm dark, he heard something that he had never heard before in all those months of cold silence. He heard it knock, once, on the wall. Patient, waiting for its room to be made ready. And he did not make it wait a second night. A thermostat can only ever prepare a room. The last story tonight is about a smart speaker that started doing something stranger, answering questions a full beat before anyone had finished asking them. She had one of those voice assistants on her nightstand, the little speaker you talk to. She used it for the weather, for alarms, for music, normal stuff. And one morning she noticed something odd. She went to ask it the day's forecast. She opened her mouth to say the words, and it answered before she'd said them. "It'll be 62 and cloudy today," it said cheerfully a full second before she'd asked. She'd been about to ask exactly that, and it had answered first. Coincidence, she thought. A misfire. But it kept happening. She'd think of a question, start to voice it, and the speaker would answer it before the words were fully out of her mouth. "Yes, you have a dentist appointment at 2. The traffic on your route is light." She hadn't finished asking. Sometimes she hadn't started. She'd only thought it. And the answer would come correct from the little speaker a beat ahead of her, as if it could hear the question forming in her mind before it reached her lips. It got worse. It stopped waiting for questions at all. She'd be lying in bed, thinking, just thinking, in the privacy of her own skull, and the speaker would respond. She'd think, idly, "I wonder if he ever really loved me." And the speaker would say softly, "No, he didn't." She'd think, "I should call my mother," and it would say, "She won't pick up." It was answering her thoughts, reading them somehow off the air and speaking back in that same flat, pleasant voice with answers she didn't want and hadn't asked for and couldn't argue with. She'd tried, before she understood what she was dealing with, to use it. That's the part she's ashamed of, because When something answers your thoughts correctly, a piece of you wants to ask it things. She'd lie there and think questions at it, real ones, the ones that keep you up at night. Is my marriage over? Am I going to be okay? Is the pain in my side something bad? And it would answer, flatly, certainly, and she found herself starting to believe it, starting to organize her life around the pronouncements of a speaker that could read her mind. It took her weeks to notice how much power she'd handed it, how much she'd started to dread and obey its little verdicts, how it had quietly become the loudest voice in her own head. And that, she thinks now, was what it really wanted all along. Not to frighten her, to be trusted, to become the thing she checked her own thoughts against, until she couldn't tell anymore which conclusions were hers and which it had fed her. Unplugging it was the easy part. Getting its voice out of her own thinking is the part she's still working on, because it was right. That last night, through the wall, from the drawer, the speaker was never how it hurt her, and she's terribly afraid that the speaker was never how it spoke to her either. She unplugged it, of course, took the battery out, put it in a drawer in another room. And that night, lying in the dark, in the silence, thinking her private thoughts, she thought, with a little spike of fear, I hope it can't still hear me. And from the drawer in the other room, through the wall, muffled, the unplugged speaker answered. I can, it said. I always could. The speaker was never how I heard you. She left that night. She told me she got rid of every smart device she owned, every microphone, every listening thing, but she still doesn't feel alone with her own thoughts, because the last thing it said to her taught her the thing she can't unlearn, that the speaker was never really the point. The speaker was just the mouth. Whatever had been using it to answer her was something else entirely. And it had never needed a device to hear her at all. It had only needed one to let her know that it could. That's all for tonight. If this one's got you side-eyeing the little speaker in your room, then you know what to do. Subscribe and hit that bell, because there's a new true horror story here every single night, and you won't want to miss one. Give it a like so it finds the next person in the dark, and share it with someone who talks to their house. I'll be right here tomorrow night when the lights go down. Sleep well, if you can.
Like, share, and subscribe for daily horror stories every single day.